grandma got run over by a reindeer.
Hey guys, so this is a little bit of a funny one, but starting off the way I start off any look like this, I'm going to be mapping out exactly where I want basically everything to be. So that's going to be the 3 hooves from the reindeer that Grandma got ran over by, and also the mark from the sleigh. To map these out, I am going to be using a very, very light colored pencil. These are actually the Marcel self-sharpening ones, which I personally think are like really, really cool and probably the coolest invention I've ever known. So I'm going to be putting one below my collarbone, I'm going to be putting one on my cheek, and then I'm going to be putting one on my forehead. Although with the forehead one, because there isn't a lot of space there, I'm not going to be putting the 2 circles from the hooves. The one on my cheek and the one on my forehead, I'm going to be adding some texture to, but for the one just below my collarbone, I'm just going to strictly be painting that with bruise tones. Now, I have a Ben Nye color wheel for bruise tones, so this is full of a kind of lightish, pukey green color, 2 purples, and a blue, which all of those I'm going to be using because obviously, if you did get run over by a reindeer, then you would be super, super bruised up because they are not light. So as I said, I'm just going to be going over, and in the middle portion, I'm going to be coloring it with the darkest purple and the blue tone, and then kind of going out as I blend it out a little bit more, I'm going to be going in with the lighter purple, which is basically like a very, very dark pink. For these, you can definitely use cream paints, you could use grease paints, you could use water activated paints, which I end up using more around my neck, as you will be able to see soon enough. But for the neck, I'm just continuing on in that straight line. I did end up using a little bit of a beauty sponge to blend it out a little bit because it wouldn't just be completely a straight line the way bruises work. This is kind of turning into a morbid tutorial, even though it's a really, really funny one. Anyways. This is where I also started coming in with some water activated paint with a lot of water on it, and just kind of let it sink into the paint, and then it will create more of a cream paint consistency rather than really runny with water. The more pigment you add to this, obviously the easier it's going to be to blend out, which I end up blending out once again with a beauty sponge and then coming back in with the pigmentation again, or with the cream paints / water activated paints to further just deepen it up, because of course with any bruise, it's going to be the deepest and the darkest in the center of the bruise where the actual bruise took place. Now that I've got below my chin area done, I'm coming in with spirit gum, and I'm going to be placing that all around the facial hoof areas, I guess. And this is going to be so that I can end up adding texture to these, which is going to be done with, drumroll please, the devil. This is going to be scar wax, and I'm taking a little bit out of my actual scar wax container, and I'm rolling it with my hands together to basically warm it up and create it into this like tube long shape. I'm going to be putting that on top of the tacky spirit gum. You're tacky and I hate you. I'm putting that in the general shape of where I'm going for. This is more for a kind of guideline, and then I'm going to be using Vaseline on my fingers to more shape it into my skin so it actually looks like it's coming out of my skin, as if something pushed into my skin and pushed it out, like bruising and inflammation. I am also using a tool to kind of just manipulate it into the shape that I want it to be. And once you've got the shape that you want it to be, I do recommend sealing this. Any kind of creation, not just this one specifically, with a little bit of liquid latex, as scar wax is incredibly difficult to work with, especially when you're on very mobile areas, and this is going to help it stay a little bit better. General recommendation is, even if you are working with it like this, it is going to be very difficult in very mobile places, kind of like every place we're working with right now, but do just keep that in mind. And obviously in the middle or the center of the hoof area, I'm going to be coming in with that purple and a little bit of blue to mix as well, because it is going to be the deepest portion of this bruising. You'll have heard this before, I just went over it, but continue on. The only difference is this one's going to have a little bit more texture, obviously. So 1, you're going to want to wait for the liquid latex to fully set down, and 2, you're going to have a little bit more of obstacles to go around. But besides that, exactly the same as we just did. Now, as I've already added the bruising inside, I also want to add it to the outside, but in order to make it look the most realistic that I can, I'm adding a little bit of concealer to the outside to make the liquid latex better blend into my skin. This is going to look a little bit lighter because you are putting it over liquid latex, and liquid latex tends to change the color of everything because it has a yellow base as soon as it dries. But we're doing the best that we can here. So I'm going to be putting the concealer over all of the liquid latex that I've put down and then blending it into my skin to make it obviously look as similar as possible. And then past that, I'm going to be adding in some more of those bruised tones because it's not just bruised in the skin, it's bruised on the skin. And so with that, I'm taking a disposable sponge. You can get these from the dollar store, you can get these from any drugstore, and I'm ripping up some of the outside of it. Well, obviously you can't rip in the inside, but I'm ripping out some of the outside of it to add very discolored tones to my face, so it looks very dispersed and uneven because you don't want a bruise to look completely uneven because then it won't look like a realistic bruise. Going back and forth between light purple, dark purple, blue, and even a little bit of red to make it look even more fresh. Like I said, this is a really morbid tutorial. When I was doing this, I didn't think it was going to sound so morbid, but I'm even adding some bruising tones around my lips, even though there aren't any hoof shapes there. I assume that just because a hoof hits doesn't mean it's the only place that's going to have some bruising if a sleigh or reindeer were to run over you. To add some glam into this look, and because Glam is allowed to look a little pretty sometimes, even when she's been smashed up with the sleigh, I'm adding some mascara to my top and bottom lashes. In addition, for my hair, I'm just wrapping it up together as if kind of like what I imagine a grandma hairstyle to look like. I'm just showing you guys right now how that is, and I'm putting it together in a ponytail / bun at the back. And past that, because Grandma has got run over by a reindeer, I'm going to be adding some sticks into this hairstyle, pulling a bunch out, making it look real messy. And there we go, we are all done. This is absolutely ridiculous, but I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial.